Shalom and welcome to another in our series of podcasts from Temple Beth Am, a dynamic center for conservative Judaism in Los Angeles. This is a recording from our 2021 Passover Prep Learning Series.
I'm really excited about this class, mostly because two of the people who are going to be teaching the class are my parents. So I grew up with the Seder that they're about to tell you about. And because I just think the world of Dr. Rothblum as both an educator and a friend. And so to be able to have all three of these wonderful people here to teach us about creating innovative Seders is fantastic. And I hope that you gain a lot from them, but also have a great time watching them teach and watching them share their creativity. Many of the things that we're going to share tonight I was going to say today, but it is very much so tonight, are things that you can use really at any Seder. So some of them might seem in presentation to be for younger children or for children of any age. But really, the beauty of Passover is that it's about asking questions at all ages. And so some of the gimmicks, I'll call them, or resources that we're going to give you can be used with adults as well, even if they might seem gimmicky or for children. We're going to do this kind of in shifts. So I'm just going to explain to you how it's going to go. And those of you who are listening to the podcast later on, we'll have the resources in the same place you found the podcast. We are going to share some ideas that we have as educators, and then we are going to share the resources that we've come up with over the years in a Google document that you can print out, you can click on links, you can open up Oriental trading sites, you can do all of those fun things in preparation of your own Seder. And then we're going to open it up to you to ask us questions about creative things that you might want to try out or might be thinking of, or just questions of how to engage people of whatever age will be at your Seder. And so the end part of this, the last kind of third, I was never very good at math. The last big chunk of this class will be Q&A. So if you have questions or burning ideas, write them down. We'll get to them. And we would love to hear your ideas, because then hopefully we can also add to our vault of creative options for the Seder. So I'm going to turn it over to my parents, Dale and Tracy Schatz. And I don't know which one of them is going first, but I'll turn it over to that household.
All right. Once we have gone through some of the things that Tracy might tell you about that happened before we start the Seder, when we've decided to start the Seder, the first thing we do is we sort of frame what's coming. And we use a singable version of a list of the things in the service order. Very often this is referred to as Kadesh Urchatz. And if you look up Kadesh Urchatz anywhere, you'll find a whole different way, a wide variety of singy versions of it. And we use that in this particular way. First, I want you to sing it with me, and then we'll show you what we do with it. Kadesh Urchatz, Karpas Yachatz, Magid Rochza, Motzi Matzah, Maror Korech, Shulchan Orech, Tzavun Barech, Halel Nirtzah. Now the sheet you're looking at shows at the top of the page the particular song version that I just sang, and then it has the list of the 14 things. We don't actually give this to people. We have a much impressive and large graphic thing that represents these things the way we want it to be done. But here's how we use it. We, first of all, I might teach hand motions. So Rebecca, come back to me, highlight the screen, and let me just show the hand motions. So first of all, what I do is I say to everybody, all right, show me your Kiddush cup. Very good. Kadesh. And then show me washing your hands with a special pitcher. pouring the water over your fingers. And even when I do this with adults, I realize that it helps sort of internalize the activities we're going to do. These are activities that have blessings that go along with them. Kadesh Urchatz Karpas Yachatz Magid Rochza Motzi Matzah. That's a piece of matzah, and I broke off a piece. Maror Korech Shulchan Orech Tzafun Barech Halel Nirtzah. And we've defined each of the things we're going to do. So now what we do is we start our Seder. And the first thing we do is we have Kiddush. We say the festival Kiddush for Pesach. And after doing that, we're done. We put the cup down. And then we say to everybody, all right, let's sing again the order and include everything we've done so far. Here we go. Kadesh. And then we get to Urchatz. And whatever our shtick is for setting up Urchatz, we wash our hands, somebody for the whole group, or everybody participates. When we're done washing the hands, we say to everybody, all right, now from the beginning again, let's sing everything we've done so far. Kadesh Urchatz. Very good. And then we have the salt water go around and the karpas. We say it with a blessing. We eat the karpas. Together, sing with me everything we've done so far. Kadesh Urchatz Karpas. Very good. You see, we're zipping right along. And then we have the three matzahs. We take them out of this fancy thing. We separate the middle one. We break it in half. And if we're lucky, it didn't break in half. And we hide the larger section. And when we're done, and that has no blessing. When we're done doing that, we say, all right, let's sing everything we've done so far. You get you get what we're doing here. And then we sing, Kadesh Urchatz Karpas Yachatz. And then we get into Magid. And of course, the Magid is everything. The Magid is telling the story, singing the songs, the four children, the plagues, it's all there. And then it goes more rapidly after we get to the end of that. That's kind of our Kadesh Urchatz thing.
Okay, so to add to this, what I do is I give each person or each family a bag with something in it that can in some way relate to one of the parts of the Seder, one of the things that we just sang about. For example, in one of the bags I might put baby wipes or hand sanitizer. In another bag, maybe a puzzle. In another bag, maybe a bottle of hot sauce. Now, there's a list of these things in the Google Doc, so you can find it there. If you're doing the Seder over Zoom, then you could actually send a clue to your participants beforehand. You can say, okay, your clue is hot sauce. Now, what do we do with this? As we progress through the parts of the Seder, the 14 parts of the Seder, if a person feels that their item relates to that part of the Seder, they reveal what their clue is and they discuss how it relates. The interesting thing is, people have all kinds of ideas about how their item actually does relate to the Seder, and you get into some great discussions. This activity can be done with the smallest child and the most mature adult.
So, for instance, if we were doing this and we got to, well, where in the Seder do you think your clue, if it were hot sauce, where would that go in the Seder? How would people answer that question, Rabbi Schatz?
They can raise their hand, and
okay.
I can. Oh, Jay knows. Jay knows all the classes.
Maror.
Yeah, Maror, good for you.
Or maybe Shulchan Orech if you like hot sauce on your brisket. You never know. You just never know.
Yeah.
Okay, Dr. Rothblum.
So we're thinking about different parts of the Seder, and in the sheet that we're sharing, you'll see different ideas for different parts of the Seder. The part that I wanted to offer was commentary on Magid, on telling the story. And certainly there are lots of things you can do. You can act it out. You can tell the story outright. You can have the kids act it out. Make up one year we wrote it as a play that people had to act out. But one of the things that has been most popular in our family is gamifying Magid. And so I want to share with you two different game ideas. One, and as Rabbi Schatz said earlier, all of them are good for all ages. One that is very popular is doing Jeopardy. And you can have, 5 different, we've done symbols of Pesach, people of the Pesach story, parts of the story. And, and obviously you make the questions at the $100 mark, the easier ones. We do those so that our, the 3 and 4 year olds who are participating can share. And then the $500 questions are a little bit trickier. And so that is a fun board to have. And I'm happy to share questions if you need some ideas on categories and questions. Another very popular game is to do headbands, for those of you who know the game. So we print out pictures from the Pesach stories. Again, symbols, people. People are a little bit tricky because, there's not a lot to distinguish, let's say, a picture of Moshe from a picture of Aaron, but you can get there. And we take sentence strip paper, or you can take long construction paper and make headbands. And so the picture goes on the headband. So for example, if I had a picture of let's put Pharaoh on, I could not see it, but everyone else around the table can see it. And so I have to ask questions to try to guess what is on my head. And again, you can really differentiate for different age levels. When we played this game last year, we gave, Pharaoh to the 4-year-old. We gave Nachshon to the 11-year-old because she had learned about Nachshon in school. So you can really try to give the trickier ones to people who have studied the story, easier ones for people who may need a little bit more support. And really what we have found in our family is that by gamifying Magid, we're able to talk about the story, we're able to talk about why we're there, but we're able to also keep everyone's interest. Because when we've tried to just sort of go through the story or through the traditional Haggadah, by the time we get about a third of the way through, none of the children are at the table anymore. And that's sort of the point. So we're big fans of making games.
So I will share 2 very quickly. One is also during Magid. The 4 children is one of my favorite parts of the Passover story and Haggadah. And one year, actually, as an intern at Temple Beth Am, I came up with an activity that I've now used multiple times with mirrors. And my mom is showing you a mirror. Oh, you can all see yourself. That was so cool, Mom. Yeah. Like you can all see the Zoom screen in the mirror. So the idea is that every person would have a little mirror at their plate or in their bag that you get. And instead of talking about the 4 children as these hypothetical characters, being able to look at yourself, again, it's just a gimmick. You don't need to do it with an actual mirror. But be able to look at yourself and decide who it is that you reflect back in the mirror. And you can do this in partners. When I did it as an intern, I did it for adults in Chavruta, in partnership, where the person on the other side of the mirror, who is your partner in this activity, says who they think you are. And then you look in the mirror and you say who you see. So you can do it as an individual activity. You can do it as you just seeing yourself, or you can do it in partners with the other people at your table. Intergenerational is great. And you can say to the person, this is the child who I see in you. The other piece that I love and might not be great for little kids, but is great for all ages. I would say like above second or third grade probably, is to actually do the Seder not in order. And I know you're probably all thinking, but it's called a Seder. That means order. You're right. That's true. And we live in America, which means that we get 2 Seders. So maybe one night you do it in order, and the second night you do it in a different order. So you can put all the different pieces of the Seder in a basket. You can cut them up and put them in a basket with Velcro or something on them to put up on a board. And the reason this becomes interesting is because there are certain parts of the Seder that need to be done in a specific order. You can't have Shulchan Orech before Motzi Matzah, because you need to say Hamotzi before you eat the meal. You can't wash your hands after dinner. You have to wash it before you eat the bread or matzah or cardboard, whatever. So the idea is to bring conversation to the table, or in our house, to the living room where people are sitting on the floor, and have people discuss why certain parts of the Seder exist where they exist in your Haggadah. So this is a really exciting way to do it, specifically for people who are interested in that kind of discussion around why and where and what. But for example, you can do karpas at the end of your Seder, and it's still completely fine because there's no blessing that needs to come, or I shouldn't say no blessing, there's no action that needs to come before it, except for the washing of the hands, which needs to come before other things as well. So it's a fascinating way for adults to be able to engage in making the Seder meaningful and your own order. So I put 2 things in the chat. I put the sheet that my dad referenced when he sang the order, which you're more than welcome to use. And I also put in the Google Doc that has all of these different ideas, which I would say we all contributed to, but really Tracy Schatz put in 99% of the work. So she put together a really fantastic document of resources and ideas, and again, links to purchase certain things. You're more than welcome to look through it now or pay attention now and look at it later, but I wanted you to know it's in the chat. Any final thoughts from our quote panelists before we open it up for?
I think the last thing I'll mention, because we talked about it as a group a lot when we were preparing, but it didn't come up so much tonight, is the work that goes into creating a space that invites conversation and engagement. And Tracy, I'll let you talk about your space. I just found, and I'm happy I'll share my screen. Last year, I really got my kids involved with setting up the table. So like you can see here, like all the Lego, these are all the Israelites crossing. This is the ocean. I don't think I quite got, I think Ursula was Miriam. The kids did origami to make the pyramids. Here are all the plagues that they're leaving behind in Egypt. So I think that there are different ways to set up. I know the Schatz family does in the living room on the floor. So just also to think about ways to make the environment feel like something people are entering into that will invite a different kind of experience.
And Dr. Rothblum, we also know, and this word hybrid is taken on a new meaning, that for some of us, our Seder will be a sort of hybrid experience in which we're going to have, the few people in our house that we can have because they're sort of part of our safety pod that we've created over the year. But there's a lot of people we won't have into our house because they're not part of that, and that they will Zoom in to join us. People who have regularly joined us over the years, and thank goodness they're happy and willing to do so, and including our kids who aren't living in town. 2 of them are here, 2 of them are back east. But so we're going to create a sort of a hybrid setting, a setting that looks good for them on screen and is easy for them to see what's going on and allows them to feel as closely involved as they can be, but that is also inspiring for the half dozen of us that are in the house instead of the usual 45.
While Dr. Rothblum puts the picture back up, because Paula asked her to, and it is a terrific picture, I'll just mention we're throwing out a lot of ideas, and I'm sure you have lots and lots of ideas. Keep them, save them. You don't have to do lots of things at one Seder. You have two Seders, so you can have two totally different types of experiences, or you can create one Seder and then, maybe hone it the next night, or one Seder be for younger members and another be older members, however you want to do it. But just keep the ideas and continue to build and change it up so that it feels fun and refreshing. After all, we're telling the same story, but we're not the same people. And therefore, the story feels and is different from year to year. We've, never washed so much as this last year. So certainly those parts of the Seder have tremendous meaning that they may not have had prior to this experience. Anyhow, don't bite off more than you can chew. Don't make yourself crazy. Just have a really good time so that it feels fun.
The one thing I will, and then we'll open it up to questions after I share this. We haven't spoken about food yet, and I feel like that's a huge part of the Seder, and it's also a really big way of getting people, like Dr. Rothblum was saying, to the table, right? Whatever the table means for you, but getting kids to stay at the table, getting adults to stay at the table, and to not make them feel like you are belaboring something before they finally get to eat. So one of my favorite things I actually learned with my grandparents, who are also on this call, when I was living in Israel, was that one of the ways that you can do karpas is with anything that goes under the category of saying Borei Peri Ha'adama. So anything that comes from the ground can become karpas. And you can have a very big smorgasbord of food on your table at the way beginning. And you can have fun dips, and you can do like a fondue type situation, right? There are so many foods that go under that category, like potatoes that you can make into French fries, and bananas that you can make into dipping into peanut butter if you eat peanut butter on Passover, or chocolate, which everyone should eat on Passover, carrots, cucumbers, right? All of these things that kids and adults will be very grateful to be eating before they actually get to the meal portion of their of the evening, and it'll keep them at the table, and it'll also be fun, and you can use that as a centerpiece also, because it's one of the first things that we get to in our Seder.
So because you said bananas, in case people don't know, bananas, the blessing for bananas for some reason is Borei Peri Ha'adama, even though the banana is seen above ground. Is there an easy tell of the reason, Rebecca?
It's just because I think it has to do with the growth of how they come out of the ground. I actually have absolutely no clue, but I can look it up and tell you that I have an idea. I just know that's the blessing, and it's a good thing to have on the table. Okay, Henry, you have a question. So anybody who has questions or comments or ideas you want to share with us, just raise your hand and we'll call on you. Yeah, Henry.
So the answer about banana is that it's not like a real tree. It actually grows more like it's like, I don't know how to describe it exactly, but it's not considered a real tree in the same way that an apple tree is a tree. So it's treated as if it comes out of the ground.
Thank you.
I knew someone would know. This is why you work at Temple Beth Am, so you don't need to have all the answers because your congregants do. Okay, Batya.
Okay. I just wanted to share a couple of ideas that I've done over the years. My kids are now grown, but when they were little, I did a lot to engage them. I went to a thrift shop and I found a very colorful striped sheets. And I cut them up and made them into scarves like the Israelites would wear. Went to the 99-cent store and I got these gold hair headbands. And so we draped them we had the cloth and then we draped them up around. So everybody wore those and we were the Israelites dressed up. I also got a pharaoh hat at Disneyland in the, there's a ride for, I'm blanking out, but
Aladdin.
Disneyland, what is it?
Aladdin.
No, it wasn't Aladdin. It was
Indiana Jones.
Indiana Jones. Thank you. It did me. In the gift shop there, they had a pharaoh hat. So somebody wears that. And that was a lot of fun. And also, I'm going to share my screen because I made these, oops, that's the wrong screen.
I don't know that you'll be able, let me see if I can give you.
Okay. I think I can. Hold on.
Oh, great.
Nope. Can't do it. Anyway, I made these cards. I printed out one and I laminated them. And they have silly questions like, why do we eat gefilte fish on Pesach? And the answer, because it's delicious. Why do Jewish people clean out their homes for Pesach? Because they're out of their minds. That's why. Jewish? No. I made these. Some of them were more factual. How many times in the Haggadah is the number 4 used? Or what's the average amount of matzah per person consumed in a year in the Jewish community? And I found all this stuff online. And so I made these cards and I laminated them, and one goes under everybody's salad plate. And so every once in a while I'll say, Moishi, let's hear your card. And if somebody gets it right, they get a candy. So that was just another thing to keep everybody engaged.
Thank you for sharing that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And if you want, Batya, you can send me, if you want to share it, you can send me the link and I'll add it to the podcast.
I'll do it right now.
Awesome.
Oh, how do I do that? It's a Word file.
Just send it to me in an email. Just attach it.
Okay. Afterwards or now?
Whatever you want.
Okay.
Totally up to you.
I'll send it to you afterwards.
Thank you.
Yeah. It's just, to make it fun.
Yeah, it's great. Thank you for sharing that.
Mm-hmm.
Any other thoughts or questions or ideas that people have? Yeah, Joel.
I was confused about your idea of changing the order of the Seder, because then you said, but certain things have to be in certain order. So how did you reconcile the two?
Yeah, so the way that we did it, thank you for asking that. The way that we did it was we would pull something out of the basket and it would say motzi matzah. And we would decide, could we do motzi matzah at that point in the Seder, right? If it was the first thing happening that evening, the answer is no, because you have to do kiddush before you can eat the matzah. So it would go back in the basket and we would pull out the next thing. And if it wasn't kiddush and we were still at the beginning, then we would say why and go to the next thing. If motzi matzah, let's say we had done 3 things, and one of them obviously was kiddush, and we pulled out motzi matzah at that point, then of course you can do it then, because as long as you've done kiddush, you can start eating bread whenever you want. So at that point you can do motzi matzah, and then after that you can do karpas, for example, and you don't have to go straight from motzi matzah until shulchan orech. So it's a really nice way of especially having people who have either spent lots of Sedarim talking about the different elements and what goes into them, or even for like my 6th graders right now are learning about the Haggadah and what parts go where, and they, not today, but in a week, will be able to answer, hopefully, for you where things are supposed to go and why. So you could engage them in saying, okay, we have this piece of our Seder, and we have to get all the way to this piece of our Seder, but why can't Hallel be at the beginning? It totally can be. So that's what the conversation would then be. And again, you probably don't want to do both Seders this way, but doing one Seder this way is a really fun educational tool. Other questions, thoughts? Yeah, Debbie.
So given our COVID situation.
Yeah.
We're going to do ours on Zoom again, sadly. Yeah. And so some of these things, I'm not really sure how to incorporate them. They're really great ideas. How do I incorporate them? I mean, I did it last year and I had all these great ideas too, but I want to make it fun and meaningful, and some of these ideas feel like you have to do them in person.
Yeah, so I'm going to call upon Dr. Rothblum to answer this question, given that she's running an entire school, either on Zoom or in person, and so she probably has great ideas for that.
I mean, I think you're right that there are some things that can be done on Zoom and not, and I think, like, to the point that Tracy made earlier, like, you don't need to do all of them. So, just to give an example, I think headbands would be very tricky to do on Zoom because you'd have to get people the materials ahead of time. But we did play Jeopardy on Zoom. So, you're not, I would say, to pick and choose and find the things that work best. Certainly, like when Dale's idea of like singing the order after every single step, that could be done. So I would say just pick a few, and then I guess if there are some favorites you can't do, just put them away for, God willing, next year.
I would also add, my parents wanted to say something.
I was going to say this about singing. In general, I would maybe set out this rule right off the bat, which is that when you sing along with a leader or whomever's leading that particular prayer or song, everyone should be muted except for the person leading. But everybody else in their place where they are behind their screen, in front of their screen, can be singing along. And they are singing with the leader. They hear you and themselves. It's only me that doesn't hear everybody else singing along with me. Everybody else in their home hears themselves and the people around them, whether that's 2 or 3 or 5 in their household on screen with you. They are singing along, and just make sure that everybody stays muted when one person is leading a sing-along or a prayer that they're saying with you, because that will allow the audio to work. It's just a thing to let everybody know.
Debbie, I'm totally happy to help you try and come up with things that you can do on Zoom. Rabbi Schatz can give you my email, and I'm happy to talk back and forth with you. I'm sure you have some great ideas. The fact that you're just even talking about it, gets me excited about having a conversation, and we could come up with things together. There's all kinds of ideas that are being shared in the chat. You can send things to your participants. You can send them boxes of goodies, or you could just send them emails with ideas. You could have your participants take parts of the Seder. Anyhow, I'm very, very happy to be involved with you or anybody that wants to talk about how to do it on Zoom. Because many of us are going to do that, Well,
and I did do it on Zoom last year, and I do have a lot of ideas. But one of the things that I did that was really fun that you guys might want to do is there's this song, Standing at the Sea, Micha Mocha, and it has lots of verses, and everyone can sing a verse, and it's really kind of fun, and it's beautiful. So I would do that.
I just want to piggyback on what my mom said a moment ago about telling other people to do things. I think one thing that I've learned just from teaching over Zoom is that if the participants in the class, or in this case, the Seder, feel like they can share something in their location. So like for my students, often that's sharing their screen or sharing a video. And that those might not be things that you're comfortable with at your Seder. But having different people around your Seder table on Zoom take on certain aspects, whether that's leading a part or showing a thing or leading a discussion or setting up their table the way that Dr. Rothblum did because they have kids in their house. And so that makes sense for their home. Right? Everyone, even if you're on Zoom together, you're in a way each leading your own Seder in your own homes because it's just you in your home. So making the space something that even though you're collaborating with other people on a screen, you're able to then say, this is your space to create and then share that with us in a meaningful and productive way for the Seder.
There's a question in the chat. So Paula was asking about like ideas for like a 2.5-year-old. And I'm definitely happy to chime in, but because I have some thoughts, but I'm curious if there are others on the call who have great ideas to share for a 2.5-year-old.
Well, I just put it in the chat, but I'll say it to everybody. There's what we call the frog song. Oh, listen, oh, listen, oh, listen, King Pharaoh. And the little ones always get a kick out of it. And at our house, we always have my mom has little frogs, jumping frogs that we can play with at the same time. And it's a lot of fun. And I think the 2 and 3-year-olds would love it.
There's a really great, I'm trying to find it because my mom put it in this, here it is. In this document that you also have, and I'll share it with you to see. There's this really great song that Alana Jagoda, so those of you who were with us for Kol Tefillah last year, you actually met this woman, Alana Jagoda. She has this song called Where's the Afikomen? Where did you hide it? That was great timing, but not what I meant to do. Called Where's the Afikomen? And it's just really, really fun. And if you're comfortable sharing the technology on the Zoom screen on Chag, go for it and share the video because it has kids jumping around and having a good time. If not, just sing it, and I'll play it for you. I'll play a few seconds of it for you. It's very, very cute. And a fun part of the Seder that no one really talks about because the kids are usually asleep, so... I'm gonna find it, yeah, yeah. Where's the Afikomen? Where did you hide it? I'm gonna find it, yeah, yeah, yeah. Where's the Afikomen? Where did you hide it? I'm gonna find it, yeah, yeah. Where's the Afikomen? Where did you hide it? I'm gonna find it, yeah, yeah, yeah. So you can listen to it on your own time, but you can see that it's very fun and the kids will just jump around and have a good time. And the 2.5-year-old can do the hand movements even if they don't get all the words. So anyway, that's one.
One thing, that's so funny. I was just going to talk about puppets, but I'm going to let you do that, Tracy. I think just something I will share because I'm coming with the educator lens. There's a lot of conversation right now about how fun we should make the plagues for kids. So I'll just name if we think about the plagues, they're terrible, awful, people died. We tend to make them fun. In another picture that with my table, last year I had my kids decorate brown paper bags with the plagues and we used them for decoration. So I'm not this is not preaching. I'm just offering it to the conversation that you may want to think about with kids, how much you do want to lighten the plagues or how much you don't want to do that. Certainly death of the firstborn is not something we necessarily want to be excited about.
Just for an example.
I think Dr. Rothblum's point is fantastic. And to go along with both that and Jay's suggestion, you can take a paper bag and glue dots, right, and stickers, so it's totally Chag appropriate. And the kids can actually make a frog that they could then use to sing the frog song, for example, if you were just going to focus on one of the plagues like that. The other thing, Paula, that comes to mind, and I included in the Google Doc, is you take a character like Curious George, who's curious, and that's what we're supposed to be. We're supposed to be curious. Or Elmo, who asks questions. And Elmo or Curious George or some other beloved character, beloved by a 2-year-old character, takes you through the different parts of the Seder. And that allows the child at 2 to participate in the process, with a visual. And again, there's a document that you can look at that I included in the doc, and you can make it your own, and that allows them to participate that way too, through the whole Seder, so not just specifically through the Magid. The other thing that I would say for a little bit older than 2, so I'm straying from Paula's question now, but just a little bit older, still maybe 4 and up, I would say, you can explore the different parts of the Seder through the 5 senses. So Kiddush, when we do Kiddush, what senses are we evoking? And I actually create, and you have it on the doc, stickers. They're labels. They're just made out of labels. And what you do is you create the 5 pictures of the 5 senses: eyes, ears, nose, mouth. And you just ask the child to stick on the right sticker for that part of the Seder. So again, different age children, adults participating in this also, but it's a different lens to look at each part of the Seder.
There's a really great, I would say genre, because there's multiple, of Passover Haggadot, that's redundant, I guess, Haggadot that are sticker books. And when I've done Seder with really young kids, this is a great thing for the young kid, but also if the young kid has a sibling or a parent who would be more excited to fill out a sticker book than they would be to look at the, conservative Judaism's version of the Haggadah. And it's a great way for the kid and the parent, or the kid and the sibling, to follow along with the Seder, but also have things to do during that time. You could also do a bingo board, again, a little bit older than 2 for sure, but something that allows them to feel like they're part of what's going on. It's also good for adults. If you want to have like fun prizes for adults to do bingo, that's also fun. But there are tons of Passover sticker books. So 2, 2.5, 3, perfect for that. And I can send you a few, but I also just looked on Amazon to see if I can send you one, and there's a ton. So just search Passover sticker Haggadah and you'll see a million. I was going to say something else and then it left my brain. Anyway,
how I deal with in music in the preschool, which is part of my responsibility, with difficult parts of Jewish Chagim. Purim has many difficult parts, and as Dr. Rothblum pointed out, Pesach does as well, is to sort of pick and choose. So when we come to the idea of God wanting to punish Pharaoh for being bad, the only thing we make a song out of, in our case, happens to be the frogs. And for the other punishments, I just say, and God punished Pharaoh. One of the punishments was frogs. And that's what we do. And if in an older grade we are reading through a list of the things, there's several ways to deal with it. But when we get to the death of the firstborn, the word could be the demise of the firstborn, and the firstborn of every animal and living thing. I mean, it's a big point, but it doesn't have to be discussed in child language. It just needs to be included and gotten past. There's that.
The thing that I was going to say, and then Paula, I'll call on you. I saw your hand. This is, again, 2.5-year-olds could participate for sure, but not specific to 2.5-year-olds. Is, and Annabelle made me think of it when she said the pyramids out of Legos, is creating your own charoset. So not having someone make charoset beforehand, but having all the elements of charoset and then putting it together in a little bowl. When we were kids, this is why that comment made me think of this, when we were little kids, before the Seder even began, we were allowed to take the charoset that was pre-made, but we were allowed to take the charoset and make it into pyramids that would sit at the table that we would then scoop for the parts of the Seder where we ate the charoset. But if you are a household that loves different customs and different traditions, different, not denominations, different sects of Judaism have different ingredients in their charoset. And so you could do a Sephardic charoset, you could do Ashkenazi charoset, and you could have all the ingredients out and everybody could just make their own. So it would be kind of a mishmash of Sephardic and Ashkenazi, or one or the other. But again, it's this fun educational moment around a thing that we usually just eat and prepare early on that could bring a little bit of a fun taste, no pun intended, to that moment. Paula.
I'm wondering, I don't know how much time I'm going to have, and we do a lot of these things. I really like the comment about sort of normalizing the plagues, or making, I don't know, lightening them, because it's hard. Yeah. But about making, and we use different Haggadot. I also worry about keeping the adults engaged too. And so I know this is geared towards families, but families have people of all ages, things like that. But I do worry, I do try and keep the adults engaged, but I'm wondering about making our own Haggadot, what you think, or we have a range of Haggadot. Last year, because it was over Zoom and we were all in different places, we used one. So everybody was on the same page, and that was like Purim in a box, Purim, Passover in a box, like sending it to people. And people didn't, and it made a huge difference, actually. All the ingredients for the Seder plate as well, as much as we could, because people weren't shopping, you know. And so I said it was a Debbie about doing Seder again over Zoom, and we'll have some of that. We'll have a combination.
Yeah.
So what do you think about making your own, or is it, I'm not certain it's worth the effort given everything else.
You also, I mean, you could make your own, or I could see it going back to Dale's word of hybrid. I mean, one way you could make it to engage the adults, you know, quote unquote, make your own Haggadah, but maybe without the work, is to, if you still wanted everyone to use the same Haggadah, but ask them to bring something interesting to the Seder from a different Haggadah. So, you know, one of the Seders I've been to, we've each been assigned a part. So I know that I need to come in with something really interesting about Urchatz or whatever it might be. And so that could be a way to diversify the sources you're using and keep everyone on the literal same page of the Haggadah, given that you're around a different table.
Urchatz is always the one that the educator gets because there's just nothing to do with it. So it makes sense, Erica, that you've got Urchatz.
Every year.
Yeah. You could also, there is a website called Haggadot.com where you can make your own Haggadah. It takes a lot of time, and it's totally worth it. I'm going to call her out, but I think she'll be okay with it. Esther asked me if I could sit with her and help her make a Haggadah this year. I'm happy to do that. I'm happy to make a whole session around it and help all of you do it. And it's going to take time. So if that's not the way that you want to put time into a different Haggadah, you could also, I love Dr. Rothblum's idea. Our family does that every year of giving people different assignments. But the other thing you could do is just have like inserts almost. So I know, Paula, you happen to be someone who's very conscious of social justice. If there are social justice readings, you would want to have, that's it. The social justice readings that you would want to have inserted, you could either send them out in your invitation or just screen share them at the time of the Seder so that people could read along with you. You could also just decide that not everybody's going to be on the same page, and therefore you're going to have the one line that's important from the Haggadah up on the screen for people to see. Even if you're in a big passage of Haggadah reading, there's at least one thing that people can look at to be able to share, as opposed to the other Haggadah that they might be reading out of. I don't know if my parents have anything to add to that, but I feel like I just shared what they do with us. So I do love, and this is harder for people who either don't have Haggadot at home or don't have as much knowledge around the Haggadah, which is a very complicated text and book. And so if you don't have knowledge around it, that's not something to be ashamed of. I do love having people have a different Haggadah in front of them. I have a Harry Potter Haggadah in my office. I have a feminist Haggadah. I have many, many, many different Haggadot. And if you give everybody their own Haggadah, you almost don't even have to script what you're going to do during the Seder, because someone's going to say, oh, that's so interesting. My Haggadah says this about karpas. Does yours say that about karp? And so the conversation almost flows differently based on the Haggadot that are in front of them. I wouldn't do that with a Seder full of children, but for a Seder full of adults, I think it's a great option. Any last thoughts or questions? Unlike last Tuesday, which was 2 hours long, we are going to cap this at 1 hour. But does anybody have any thoughts or last minute burning questions? Okay.
Can I ask one question? So for adults, is there a place, I will Google this, but is there a place where it's like themes? I know I just saw something themes for a Seder, so that if you make an assignment to people, you say, and our theme this year is whatever it is, from slavery to redemption, but something a little different, maybe off the beaten path.
Haggadot.com does have a whole list of Haggadot made by theme. So there's like a refugee Seder, a feminist Seder, an LGBTQ Seder. There's all kinds of thematic Haggadot. If you're just looking for themes, I'm sure you could just Google like Passover themes. And I know Hayes puts out a Haggadah every year. I'm trying to think, there's one other organization. I don't think it's Hartman, but another organization puts out like a supplement every year. So there will be those kinds of pieces as well that you could find listed, I'm sure. I don't know if Mom, do you know of like a place that has themes?
The document that we something.
I was going to say the document has themes.
Yeah. True. Yeah, the document that we put in the chat has themes. Yeah. Thanks to the Tracy Schatz archive. Diane, did you have something? Diane Shershaw?
Oh, no. I wasn't raising my hand.
You unmuted, so I wasn't sure if you wanted to share.
Oh, I thought we were ending. No, sorry.
No, it's great to have you.
Paula, you might want to investigate the Moss Haggadah, David Moss's Haggadah. It of itself has so many different ideas introduced into it that there's years of Passover Seders, right?
It's not like a simple little book that you buy. I mean, it's an art piece and a serious purchase. Even at the there's a book format of it that's different than the sort of full-on artistic presentation of it. But it is an incredible thing, and you might find some of it accessible in digital places, maybe. Right. Yeah. David Moss.
Okay, if there are no further comments or questions or anything like that, I'll just close by saying, I'll give one idea and then I'll close. One thing, those of you who have kids on here, knowing who your kids are, I would also ask your kids what they might be interested in focusing on this year at their Seder. So, if they're young kids, they might just want to sing the songs that Dale has been singing in the school. And if they're older kids, they might be interested in one particular part of the Seder. And one thing that we've learned throughout all of the holidays during COVID is that there are just going to be parts of the holiday that look really different, and your Seder might just be focused on karpas this year, right? And you might do all the other elements, but the people around your table might be most interested in talking about one particular element, and that's awesome, because then you know that they are bought into whatever you're going to be talking about, and whether on Zoom or in person, I think that is a great way of approaching any kind of interactive experience, is asking them what they might be interested in. And the last thing that I'll say, just to close this all, is Passover is just such, I mean, you can see the household that I grew up in. So I clearly feel this way because I was brought up this way. But Passover is one of these holidays that tells you exactly what you need in front of you to do. And then everything else is up to whatever you want to add to it. And it's all about exploration. So anything you do is going to be great. And anything that you try to add or try to make creative is going to just enhance it. It's not going to take away from any element of the Seder. So I just want to leave you all hopefully like very excited based on this conversation. But if you are overwhelmed or if you are feeling like, how can I be creative if we're just going to be on Zoom again? You really can't go wrong. Anything you add, anything you make innovative is going to be fantastic because you've already been given the foundation and now you just get to build upon it. So just have a great time. I know I gave you my mom's email address. You have my email address. Dr. Rothblum's very busy, so just you can ask her questions, but ask us first. We are happy to help you through this process. And I love this. So if this is something that you feel like you need help, I would love to be a creative partner with you in creating something, and hope that you dream about this tonight and get going on some creative ideas in the next few weeks. And thank you to my parents and Dr. Rothblum for being here.
Thank you, Rabbi Schatz, for bringing us together.
Thank you for including us, Rabbi Schatz.
You're welcome, Moreh Dale. All right, everyone. Have a lovely evening.
And Chag Sameach.
Chag Sameach.
You have been listening to another in our series of podcasts from Temple Beth Am, a dynamic center for conservative Judaism in Los Angeles. If you enjoy these podcasts, we invite you to write a review on the Apple Podcast site or wherever you get your podcasts. For more information about Temple Beth Am Los Angeles, go to tbala.org.